They pop crowd. They pop corn. They pop culture. It's the lowdown. What is up, everyone? Welcome to the latest installment of the Lowdown Popcast. I am the voice of PCW and the voice of Demons Football, Elliot Poston. Elliot Poston, to be honest. But I'm excited about what we have going on tonight. Joining me on this 51st episode of the Lowdown Popcast is MMA and professional wrestling announcer, on-field host for the Daytona Tortugas, on-court host for the men's and women's basketball teams at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. He is the first announcer ever to provide on-stage introductions for the Coke 0400 at Daytona International Speedway, potassium enthusiast and master of ceremonies, dubbed the Banana Announcer, arguably the best baseball lineup introductions for any team. He says to lend him your voices, but tonight I'm asking we lend him our ears and take a moment to learn from the young professor, Matt Graifer.
You've done this before. You're quite the introduction artist yourself, sir.
Hey, well, I appreciate it, man. I'll take those accolades for sure. Hey, man, welcome to the show, first and foremost.
Good to be here. Good to join everyone from inside the illustrious wardrobe of the young professor. The thing I probably get more questions about than anything else in my life. Here we are. People get to see it live, large, and in charge.
Man, I'm telling you, it's dude, you have some of the most awesome suits that I see that I'm like, man, that thing looks so good. I couldn't even fit in it, but man, it looks good.
They make all kinds of sizes, man. You'd be surprised. It's you just got to keep an eye out. Well, and now, thanks to the algorithms and Amazon and everything else, I just get solicited this stuff all the time. So it's always in my face. I always know when there's something cool and good out there because I'll get notifications and pushes, and I've got that FOMO going on. So I go, ooh, that might look good. I might need to grab me a new one, and it's turned into a bit of a problem. But you know what? You gotta look good out there. That's the moral of the story.
So how many of these suits and stuff do you have? And now I'm gonna say suits because I know you're the on-field guy for the Tortugas.
Well, it was. I'm not anymore. I did it for 2 years, and I wasn't sure if I was going back this year. But just the amount of travel I'm doing with the Savannah Bananas right now, it just prevents it. Maybe I could do a day or two here and there, but yeah, man, I got to rest. I got to get some time with the family too in there too. So my time with the Tortugas for now and the foreseeable future has come to an end. But still, the closet is full of all of those suits.
So how many would you say you got?
Probably somewhere around double nickel, 55, maybe a little more, closer to 60, maybe at this point, which is a stupid number. It's obnoxious. I'm almost embarrassed to say that. There's no reason for that at all. Even considering what I do, there's no reason for that. But here we are.
Oh,
well, actually, when I was with the Tortugas, and I did this with Embry-Riddle as well, I would not repeat the same outfit in the same season. And you see behind me, these are all my shirts, and I wear a lot of like crazy colorful button-down shirts. I do the same thing in the classroom, the day job. Do not repeat the same outfit twice in the same school year. So standard with which I conduct my business now. And so thus, you need to build a pretty deep and generous rotation of things if you're going to go that route. But with the Bananas, I largely the same thing all the time, although I do spice it up occasionally. I'm actually excited. I'm going to do some spicing it up this weekend. It's 4th of July weekend, so I got some cool stuff I'm going to roll out. I think when we're in Akron, Ohio on Sunday and Monday.
Okay. So with the Bananaball movement, I want to call it a movement, man. That's
fine. That's fair.
It's ridiculous how awesome. How much it's blown up. And, I'm a guy who I despise baseball. Just never been a fan.
Okay.
right?
All
But
right, that's fair.
see,
There's plenty of
I
people
see
like that. Sure.
I see Bananaball. I'm like, oh man, I could watch this.
Well, that's
So
because you're a
so
sports entertainment guy. As a pro
like
wrestling
yeah.
guy, you're a sports entertainment guy, and honestly, that's what I would consider us to be. We are a brand of sports entertainment. Maybe a little more on the sports, but also a little more on the entertainment side. It's WWE and professional wrestling refers to itself as sports entertainment, and I think that's what we are too, because we are sports, but we have a huge focus on entertainment, and so that pulls in people like yourself that do not necessarily have that affinity for baseball. Baseball is slow. Baseball is methodical. It's meticulous, and there's something to be said for that. It can be fun. I've always enjoyed baseball myself, but I understand why people don't, especially in today's day and age, where you've got the most fun, most amazing things always at your fingertips, and it's fast and it's colorful and it's flashy. And baseball is not that game just by its very nature. So for us to be out there doing what we're doing, we have added all the flashy and colorful things back into baseball. And we've removed all the things that we think are boring about baseball. So we've stripped out the bad, we've added more good. And what you have is what we're doing, this movement, as you refer to it, with the Savannah Bananas.
So take us through your journey, right? I could camp on the Savannah Bananas, but I don't want to because I want to camp on Matt Graifer, the young professor. That's who I want to camp on. So tell us your
Well,
story,
where do
man.
you want to start? I mean, because there's a number of points we could jump on from that all. I mean, the way I look at everything, I mean, a lot of things in my life have led to this culmination of it, and it's not just one thing. It really is a massive series of things that I can trace comfortably back to high school. And even then, that's a weird thing because I was not an athlete in high school. I didn't participate in sports, and yet I did something at the time with my voice that I didn't know it then, but it has led me to what I do now. But even then, it was still another 14 years, 15 years before I started using that in anything that has become what the young professor is and led to these other things. So you tell me where you'd like to jump on the journey, and we can talk from there.
Well, let's you were telling me a story earlier. Um,
Sure.
because I see how I think you and your wife recently had an anniversary, correct?
It wasn't our anniversary per se. I mean, our anniversary is in April, but we were in Las Vegas for the Bananas. Like we traveled together. We don't normally get to do that, so the two of us went. And while we were there, we were thinking of all the things that you can do in Vegas that you can over the top. And we went to Hell's Kitchen. She's a huge fan of Hell's Kitchen and Gordon Ramsay, so she wanted to do that. We wanted to look at the casino. We're not gamblers, but we wanted to check all that out. But we were like, you know what? Elvis marries people. That's fun. And so we're already married, but we did a vow renewal. So it was a little past our anniversary, but I thought it was significant because, when my wife and I met a little over 10 years ago, we were both single parents that were dealing with a lot. She was reeling from a pending divorce, and I was never married to my son's mom. And so I was kind of dealing with a custody battle at the time. And we were both, sharing some experiences in that regard. And we were just two very ordinary people. She was a teacher. I was a college professor. And I didn't do anything in entertainment. I wasn't on the road on the weekend. I wasn't, I was just Matt. I was kind of a different guy almost. And I would kind of jokingly say to her, I'm like, you're a really good sport about all this because you did not sign up for this. It's not like she met me as this journey in entertainment and sports and all that started like and knew like, oh well, he's going to be gone a lot. She didn't know that I was just some dude that was home. And this was a way for now going forward. She can no longer say I didn't sign up for this because it was very much a wedding celebration that was a lot more like our lives are today, as opposed to how our lives were when we actually got married, several years ago. So now there's no excuses. Now she has signed up for the young professor and all the madness and craziness that goes along with
Remember that time in Vegas? What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
it. Now this one's coming home with everybody's going to know about it. So
So, tell us what it's like to have that support system. I'm a married man myself, got some kids. also. But yeah, walk us through what it's like, having to do the balancing that, with the travel schedule now with the Savannah Bananas and being a teacher as well and everything else. Yeah, walk us through that, man. What's it like? Um,
Well, that's a question I'm getting a lot lately, and I don't know. It's hard. It's very hard, and I think anyone that does any version of it will tell you it's hard. You miss things. You're gonna miss important, and that's still kind of new to me too. My daughter, she's her ninth birthday's coming up, and I'm gonna miss it. I'll be gone. I will be in Durham, North Carolina, that weekend, and so I'm gonna miss that. I missed my son's birthday this past year. I'm missing my other daughter's birthday. Like I'm starting to miss things. I'm starting to kind of have those experiences that a lot of people that are in entertainment that they talk about. That's just part of it, and that's something that everybody's still kind of adjusting to. Largely, everybody is supportive, but it's definitely tough. I will say that. I like to tell people that I just try to be the best version of me wherever I am, and I do, but I don't always get that right. You know what I mean? It's in this world and kind of building myself, building my brand as the young professor, and kind of getting to the point where I can get recognized so that I can have a chance to do the things that I do now. That requires a lot of attention to social media, like constantly, all day, just like taking advantage of opportunities or replying to messages or sending emails or sending out, message contacts or putting out content, putting out videos and marketing materials. And there's a sale going on where I host my shirts. And so even when I'm home, as much as I'd like to say I'm attentive and all there, that's really not true either. And it's hard. And it's still something I'm learning a lot about because I want to be the best version of me everywhere I can be. And I think that intention is clear to everybody. But it's still a struggle. I mean, fortunately, I can say that having kind of been walking this road for the last 5 years, the entertainment journey begins a little before that. But in sports, particularly with wrestling, I started a little over 5 years ago, and so that's when my weekends started to become a little more booked, and I wasn't around as much. They've kind of learned what this looks like and how this, the nice things that we are afforded in life at this point, which we're
mhm.
not, well off or anything like that. But my wife and my kids, very, very cool, amazing experiences that most people don't get. And I think they're finally kind of understanding and realizing that that is a result of all the labor that I do put in, both when I'm here and when I'm not here. So they're supportive, but it's hard for them sometimes, and it's hard for me sometimes, and that's just being very, very honest about it.
So what's some things that you do to kind of you know, for lack of a better word, hold it together? Missing the fam and all that. What's some things that you do to maybe ease anxiety or uh, maybe help with your mental health or
I don't think I really struggle with any of that part of it. I kind of thrive on the chaos of having a lot to do. In
yeah.
fact, when I don't have much to do is where I kind of really start getting in my head and getting in my own feelings because I feel strange. I feel odd. I mean, yesterday, Monday, I didn't have any. I got back on Sunday. I got home at like 3 o'clock. I spent the day with my wife largely, and then yesterday, my son came over from his mom's, and so everybody was here. But we rested a lot, kind of slept because it's summertime. We don't have school, and Lord knows I never get enough sleep. But I can't help but feel like I'm useless. If I lay around, I feel like part of me is that begrudges you for when you have a day to just take a day. But man, I felt like a piece of garbage. I was like, man, I'm not doing enough. I think, I want to edit my book. I have other things, I need to work on merch designs. I need to kind of lend out some of these contacts. I should probably do some more laundry because I got to pack in 2 days. So I'm never, I don't know. I don't think I get very content when there's downtime. So when there's
Yeah.
uptime, that's when I feel more myself because an object in motion stays in motion kind of thing. And so really, one of the things that we do, and that's been is we try to do stuff and we try to go places and do things. And sometimes those are, kind of cooler, bigger trips, but sometimes it's just, hey, there's this free event that's going on in like 45 minutes away. Let's take a ride. Let's go. And we've always been that family. Even before I was in entertainment, we we were always going to festivals and this, that, and the other to just experience. Before I did wrestling, NXT does their loop here in Florida, and they used to do more tickets used to be $10. They were cheaper than going to an indie show. And we were going to see Charlotte Flair and Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch and, all the guys that are on TV and the champs that are there now. We were going to watch them every week, $50 we could all get in, $60 we could all get in. And we would do a lot of that. And so, for us, we try to just do as much as we can. And my wife and I are both believers that we want our children to have experiences. Neither of us really have much of that we did when we were growing up. Neither of us come from families with any means. And really also families that really had much desire to do anything outside of the house. I spent a lot of time at home where I spent a lot of time with friends, whereas the kids don't really hang out with friends all that much, but man, we go. And my kids have been to hundreds and hundreds of events. They've met tons of cool people. They've done amazing things. They've gone to so many states and seen the sights and sounds and museums. And those are experiences that my wife and I value. And so that's what we try to do. And so even sometimes I'll get off the road and I've been going and going, and I just get a few hours and we get up and drive and go where we're going. And it's tough for me sometimes, but I do enjoy that because I think that's where we have the most fun.
I read your some of your bio earlier today and saw that you mentioned, was it 8 years ago? But the entertainment started before that. You actually started, according to your page, doing trivia.
Yep,
trivia
that's
host,
where it all
right?
began as far as entertainment goes. Yeah.
So, what got you into the trivia? Is that just something? Have you always been interested in trivia? Is that something that you've always kind of been interested in, or what took you down that road?
I don't know. When I was a kid, I always used to kind of pride myself on all the random knowledge that I had. I always had like a song for something, or I always had a movie quote or a reference, or I could something historical. And in your own social circles, you're like, oh, I've got all this useless knowledge, right? Like people say that as just a common colloquial term that they'll use, useless knowledge. Well, when you go to trivia, it's not useless. It's useful because it's trivial stuff that you need to know in order for points and all that. And so like when I was in college, I used to play trivia. And when I first moved to Florida, I used to go out to plenty of trivia nights. That was kind of my thing that I like to do. Buddy of mine, I grew in New Jersey. He happened to live here in Florida. And so we would go out a lot and we would go to trivia nights. And actually we were pretty good and we'd win sometimes. So that would pay for our beers and our dinners a couple times a week. So that was nice. And that was at that time I had actually explored the idea of hosting trivia. I had taught spin classes in college before and thought I could do a better job than a lot of the hosts that I was watching. And so that was an interest of mine. And then life changed very dramatically. I was with my son's mother and she was pregnant and I just had to kind of read my life. So that went away. But 8 years ago, I was a college professor and I got let go from my job because they got rid of my program. So they eliminated the program I was teaching in. So I got eliminated with it. So I took another job that was a sales job, which was terrible. I didn't enjoy that at all because that's just not, I don't like calling people on the phone all day and, hey, can I interest you in this? And it's a nightmare. So yeah, I didn't feel like I was using my brain, my body, my skills, none of it. And so I needed extra money too. I had 4 kids. I had a baby at home. My daughter was less than a year old, or was about a year old. And I didn't know what else to do. Or, 4 or 5 years before that, I reached out and they were looking for hosts and I got hired on immediately and started hosting trivia. And so at the time, it was just a means to kind of give me some creative outlet, I think, but also just some extra money. It was, decent pay for 2 hours of work. And I got my college professor job back. There was another campus in the family of schools that I was teaching at an hour away from me that was hiring for my position. And I got on there and I kept the trivia. So I was teaching during the day in Jacksonville. And then I was actually driving all the way down to Daytona. So I live an hour away and that's another 40 minutes south to where I was going. So I was driving sometimes an hour and 40 minutes back from Jacksonville down so I could host trivia once or twice a week before winding up getting some trivia shows here in the town that I live in, and then kind of building that following. And from there, that led to other entertainment pursuits.
Now, are you a Georgia guy or Florida guy?
I'm a Florida guy. I
Okay.
live about 30 miles north of Daytona Beach, Florida.
Okay. So what's the drive like for you to get to Savannah? I mean, straight up 95, but
It's straight up 95, easy ride, 200 miles each way, or about 208 miles, 210 miles each way.
wow. Okay.
Knows. But I mean, you know how it is. I mean, the highways and byways of wrestling. I used to do that kind of drive for a hot dog and a handshake in front of 10 people. So,
So
to do it in front of 4,000 and with a platform like this, it makes that ride a little bit easier.
So I didn't get started with any type of announcing until after I was married with my first kid. So
Same.
like when it came to trying to travel and do it, I just said no from the get from the start. So the only company I ever announced for is Palmetto Championship Wrestling. So, but I enjoy it. But that's literally the only
You guys run a
company.
good program. I mean, I've never been to a show, but I know Ethan. I've met a lot of the guys that are at the school there that come out, and everybody is super professional, really fun to work with, some amazingly talented guys. So, if you're only going to stick to one place, I figure I think you're at a pretty decent spot if that's where you
Well,
land.
well, I mentioned this to you earlier. I'm part owner now, so
Right.
it's one of those things that me, the original founder Shane, and another buddy of ours, we bought the company back in February because Henry decided he wanted to sell, so we bought it from him, and here we are. Moved it to Camden, South Carolina, and then here we are about to run our fourth, third, fourth. I don't know. I've lost track. Third or fourth
You
show.
still love it?
Oh man, I do. I love this side of it. I love ring announcing, but I love being able to get into my creative box anytime I can. I'll tell you, I did something this past week that I hadn't done about 11 years, and that was perform live outside of church, and that
How
was
so?
great. I mean, I just haven't played music outside of church in 11 years,
Okay.
and
Well, that's cool, man. So did you take a gig, or did you get put on somewhere with some local guys, or?
Well, so my brother-in-law is an upcoming country music artist. He's and he asked me if I would play with him and sing backup. And I'd made a decision a couple weeks ago to start getting back into playing live gigs here and there. Actually have one coming up July 27th. And it's he asked me to play and I was honored. Played with him and man, it's so much fun. I sang a total of, including his set list this past weekend, about 60 songs in in a 2-day span.
How'd you feel on the next morning? Need some tea, right? Little
Man, it's funny because people's like, man, I bet your voice is shot. I was like, honestly, my voice was great.
That's good, man.
I've been singing for 20 years. So it's one of those things that it's like a piece of leather, I guess. My throat's like.
Yeah. It's like people ask me the same thing of how I'm going, and I get my voice gets beat up, pretty bad sometimes actually. But I'm able to kind of either fake it or continue on at a what sounds like a pretty reasonable level. And people ask, I'm like, well, I mean, I work so much, and I think that's just why. I talk for a living, and I talk for a living. My day job and my night job is me talking and yelling. And so it's just like any muscle, where you work it, the stronger. So, working it, you develop that, the endurance necessary to keep going.
We got someone chiming in. Billy Fox says Elliot is a detrimental piece to PCW. Elliot Poston. Hey man, I appreciate that, Billy. But
detrimental. That's that's an insult. That's what are we thanking him for? What are you doing, man? This is a family show. We're having fun here.
Billy's my boy. He's a detrimental piece. Yes, I am in more ways than one. One thing that people may not know about you that I know about you, because you actually helped me out with this, is that you are a certain someone's little helper come the holiday season.
The big man and I go way back, and
Yeah.
he can't do it all. He's busy in December. Santa has a lot going on, and so sometimes he needs others to kind of help shoulder the burden of keeping everybody back and getting everybody excited for December 25th.
What made you say, you know what? I want to be the big guy's little helper. I can help you out.
So actually, it goes back to my college experience while I was working at Rowan University in Glassboro, New Jersey. That is they do Santa callings, and it's a program they have run on campus for like community members that would use the rec center, and for if anybody that wanted to, they did, and they would bring in multiple rec staff members, and parents would fill out this information, and they would turn it in, and we would, as Santa Claus, call them and get them just hyped for Christmas. And I was a junior in college the first time I did it, and it was I had an insane. I had way more fun than I had any business having doing it. I remember it was the first year I did it, and my favorite, and it's still my favorite of all the calls I made. And I've made hundreds and hundreds of them ever since. There was a kid who asked for a BB gun, and I had to do it. I had to say it to him. I told him he was going to shoot his eye out, and man, like that was, and it was so hard to keep it together. Got people who are in the office and they're laughing, and I'm like trying to like shut everybody up so we can keep it down. But I was hooked, man. I did it those 2 years. I brought it with me to graduate school. I did it with some people there, and then when I moved down here to Florida, I don't know if I took any years off or not. I think I just kept doing it and just kept going. And I did it while I was teaching college, and then I did it on my own. And then in the last few years, I decided that, I should make it a paid service that I do, because it's, I don't think anybody minds. And I'd gotten pretty good at it, especially because I actually had my own kids sign up through the one at my old school. And whatever kid they had doing, he was terrible. I was like, oh, it's insulting. Who's going to believe this? This is awful. Like, just you gotta bring the magic out. And so I feel like I do a good job of it, and I have some fun, and it's I get into it and I do it right in here in this closet. It's where I can get away quietly in the house and kind of privately make things happen. And so I've called hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of kids for about 15 years now. This will be 15 years, which is just ridiculous. Someday I'm going to retire. I'm going to look like that someday. That's just going to be how I look. I will look like the man. And like, I don't ever plan on retiring. Cause again, I told you I need stuff to do. So I will probably just be Santa Claus somewhere at all times.
Yeah,
and I am more than okay with that.
I tell you, I not in a million years would someone have told me that I was going to be a professional Santa. And
why not? It's cool.
Well, it's funny you say so. For 3 or 4 years, people kept saying you should be Santa Claus. You have the twinkle in your eye. I'm like, listen, that's just a speck. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. But they kept telling, hey, yeah, you need to, Matt, you can't see me, but I've lost about 50 pounds, but
good for
I'm
you,
still,
brother. That's awesome.
Oh man, I appreciate it, but I'm still 6'3", 285 pounds. So like when people see me, I'm a big dude, and like, I don't know, I love laughing. I can be serious, obviously, who can't? But man, I love laughing. And, I just, after getting poked and stuff, hey, you make a great Santa. You make a great Santa. Not this past year, but the year before, I finally just pulled the plug. I got a cheap suit from Amazon. And dude, I did it. And
you got a good beard. You had a really good beard that looked really sweet.
The one oh yeah. So you saw that. Yeah. So this
I was
past
following your stuff. It was good.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. So yeah, this past year, I decided I'm investing. I'll keep my suit, but I got me a nice beard. I went to this thing, and it said the Santa Claus Tim Allen beard. I said, that's the one I want.
That's definitely the one.
And so that's who I tried to get. And man, I appreciate you sharing your knowledge with me. And like, yeah, man, here. I was like, oh
yeah,
yes.
why not? Them all. You know, I don't know if you get like this, but like I get not nervous, but I get a little trepidatious. Like I'm a little like, all right, I gotta like psych myself up and like I really kind of like study it a few minutes before I go. I'm like, all right, they got this, and all right, the Elvis jingle, and Mrs. Smith's class. All right, and what does he want? I'm like, oh man, his parents are mad at him. What did he do? Oh, I gotta give him the business about all this. Like, all right, like, and like you want to deliver, like so. Like I get psyched up, but that's almost probably why I kind of will live stream a lot of it when I do it, because that forces me to just look and go, because I don't want dead air. If people are watching and entertained by it, well, then I can't just sit and fart around and second guess myself. I just got to go. I just got to do it. Because then it becomes more live entertainment than it does, just the prep for the call. But is that something you experience? Like, do you get worked up? Like, how did you like it doing it this way?
Man, so I'm telling you, so I did FaceTimes. I didn't do phone calls.
Right.
And so, but I would get dressed like 30 to 45 minutes before my first call. And then I'm sitting there just sweating and just waiting. And I'm like, all right. I'm sitting there. I'm looking at my stack of papers and looking at it and say, okay, that's 6:15, 6:30. Oh, I got a break. 7. And and it's but yeah, the same thing. Like reading, triple checking the phone number that I'm calling to make sure I'm not saying,
right.
Is Timmy there? Sorry,
Who are you? What are you doing? Yeah, I literally is Johnny there? And like whatever the parent, like sometimes it's the parent, sometimes it's the kid, sometimes it's the other parent who has no idea what the hell is going on. And who is this? What it's a journey. It's an adventure, that's for sure.
Well, and the other thing, that for me, it was like, man, what is my Santa voice? You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
What?
There's
what
no
kind
real
of
Santa voice.
Right. But it was like, what is mine? And then I'm like, hello. And I'm like, man, I'm pretty sure my Santa has like emphysema or something. I don't know.
Oh, he's old. Santa's an old man. Yeah. He might have it. He's been, making a lot of towns over all these years. Like it's cold air he's breathing in.
Well, and so here's something that happened to me the other day. I almost messed up. So I go to our local coffee shop, and I see a family that I know, but I don't know their kids that well. And I went to ask the kid something, but then I went to ask, but I had to be God, just say, dude, you better stop. And
was he one of the kids that did it? And like,
yeah. So I did some professional Santa gigs. That coffee shop also is connected to a local toy store. So I was Santa and took pictures with kids and families and all that. And the woman told me some stuff about her daughter. I was like, hey, she's blah 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 blah.
Right.
And so I said that to the daughter back in December, and the daughter was like, because the daughter's getting to the age where she really doesn't believe that Santa's real,
right?
And all
she's
that
on the fence. Yeah.
So I said that, and she's like, "Holy crap!" She's like, "How do you know that?" I'm like, "What do you mean? How do I know that? Look at me."
It's my job. Yeah, I gotta know that.
So a couple weeks ago, I see them go to say something, but I stopped myself, and I just looked at my friend and was like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna say that." The friend got it. She's like,
"Blow your cover, yeah."
I said I was going to ask something. I completely forgot what I was going to ask. So don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. But so man, so you've done trivia. You're Santa's helper or Santa. We don't know.
Depends who you ask. Yeah.
We obviously success with the Savannah Bananas. Tell us about NASCAR. Like,
oh man, that was wild because I am not a NASCAR guy by trade. I grew up in New Jersey. I don't know what the following is like in New Jersey for NASCAR. I certainly, the only person I knew who followed NASCAR was my mother's cousin, Scott. Scott loved NASCAR. That's literally the only dude I knew who watched it, anything. So that was certainly not a part of my experience growing up north. I moved right here at first. When I first moved to Florida, I moved right outside. I literally lived a block and a half away from the Daytona International Speedway, from the world center of racing. I lived in the shadow of it, so it's been there. I'd been to one race prior to with my family years ago, like a week and a half before my daughter was born. My wife was super pregnant, and we were there at a NASCAR race. That was the extent of my experience. But as just everything has have progressed in my entertainment career, my announcing career, I just started kind of having higher aspirations, higher goals. And it's funny because I don't think that this necessarily has anything to do with it. But I think it's a God thing, or some people might call it a manifestation thing. I don't necessarily think they're different. But the school I work at now, a few years ago, they actually got there was an article in Time magazine because a few years ago they did their graduation in 2020 at the Daytona International Speedway because it was COVID, you couldn't do it. And so they literally did a drive-through graduation on that
nice
track, which was freaking cool. It was really, really awesome. And I didn't work there at the time, but my wife did, and I went with her, and we're in the minivan. We actually got to drive a little bit on the track for a second, which was kind of cool. And I remember thinking like the woman who was the person who did it, I was like, oh, I should be doing this, because at that point I had announced multiple graduations for college, the college I worked at. And I was like, this should be me. Like, I don't know why they have this lady doing it. No insult to her, but like, I was like, come on, like we could have somebody do it. I was like, someday that would be so cool. And then last year, like right around this time or a few weeks ago, I found the old photo. It like popped up in my memory, and I shared it out, and I put out there, said, here's a picture of me. I was a little thicker back in the COVID era. And I was like, but something, I said, someday my voice will come out of those speakers, and I will do something there. That will happen someday. And that's what I wrote. That's what I posted. That's all I did. And we're coming up on July 4th right now, and I didn't know it. And that's the thing about when you perform, is you never know who is watching, who is listening, who's in the room, who can tell somebody. And it was this week, last year, we had the 4th of July game for the Daytona Tortugas. And of course, went all out, multiple patriotic outfit changes. And I, at the time, I was reading the scripts for what we would do the whole game. Obviously, what happens in between the lines, that's up to the players and the coaches. I don't control that. The game day experience for people, it's like the biggest game of the year for most minor league teams. That's when things sell out. People come out for the fireworks. It's very Americana. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And NASCAR had a table there, and we have a lot of people that have tables and vendors. Saw me, and someone. That's it. And then they got wind that I also work Bananas, and they reached out to Tortugas and were like, hey, we're looking different this year. We wanted to have an on-stage announcer. Like, is your guy, the Young Professor, interested? And my friend Christina, I was at a water park with my family that day when this message came into her. I was at the water park, like a locker, and then I came out and grabbed it, and she called me. And I was like, hey, what's up? She was like, did you check your email? I was like, no. She was like, check your email. I was like NASCAR wants to talk to you about the 400 if you'd be interested. Are you interested? I went, right away. Let's go. Like, let's talk. So they did, and reached out, and they wanted to talk to me about it, and we discussed what it is, what it would look like. We negotiated a deal, and they were super interested. And lo and behold, they offered me this opportunity to introduce all of the dry race for the Coke Zero Sugar 400, which is massive because it's the most famous venue in all of NASCAR. It's not the 500, it's race that they do there every year, and it's the top. So it's it's Martin Truex Jr., it's Bubba Wallace, it's Chase Elliott, it's all these guys, the top names. Kyle Busch. Yeah, you're gonna do those guys, and you're gonna do it here at the most famous, the World Center of Racing. And so it came together, and it was the opportunity of a lifetime. And even though I was not a NASCAR, I know a big opportunity when I see it, and that was it. That was as big as it gets.
Yeah, that's that's kind of one of the reasons why I decided I want to get back into doing live music. Just
you never know.
Oh yeah, you never know. And it was one of those things you mentioned, the Daytona, seeing the woman doing the announcements for Daytona for the graduation and saying, "Man, I'm better than that." And I kind of took the same, not to be arrogant, but listening to some of these guys playing in bars and just being like, I know I'm better than they are, type of thing. Man, if they're getting paid, I can get paid doing this. You know what I mean? So man, good on you, dude. Just take throwing it out there and just allowing everything to happen. And when the opportunity got presented, good on you for taking it up. So
it came true, man. Within 3 months. It was real, and I had no connection there. I didn't know, like, I knew guys that sold tickets at NASCAR. That's the depth of my association with anyone at that time. And they didn't even see that post that I put up. It's not like I go, oh, well, let's make this guy's dream come true. It was none of that. It just came together.
It's God wink.
It is a God wink. And I believe it. And I've had that a lot in my life. And I'm a big believer. And again, it's like you said, when you watch people and you're like, I could do that better. And I don't think it necessarily is ego. Maybe it is a little bit. But I think God blesses us with talents, with our gifts. And I think it is our responsibility to use them for his glory and to maximize the outcome and the impact that we have in our lives. I think it's, growing up in New Jersey, one of my favorite movies that I ever saw is a film called The Bronx Tale. Are you familiar with it?
I'm not, but I'm listening.
It's a mafia movie, directorial debut, but it's about this kid coming up in the Bronx, and his dad's just kind of a hardworking bus driver, and he really admires this gangster who kind of runs the mob in their neighborhood in the Bronx. And the guy is kind of a bad guy, but he's kind of a good guy. He doesn't want the kid to kind of get mixed up with it, but he does. One of the things he tells him, he says, the saddest thing in life is wasted talent. And that's a quote that I love, because I think that it's so true. And it's something that, that breaks my heart all the time as a teacher, because I just watch these kids that are just as lazy as all get out, and they don't want to do anything. There's no motivation. There's no drive. And some of these kids are smart, and I know they are, because you'll see them shine, and then they just retreat back into like this hole, this ball of nothingness that they just want to be, because that's just how everybody is anymore. And I'm like, man, like, there's so much more to life out there. Like, life is good and God is so good to us. Why would you not take advantage of it? And so, for me, I just try to use the gifts that I have been given to do as much good as I can and get as much from it as I'm supposed to, because I think that's my responsibility. Like, what else am I here that the good Lord has provided me? And that's how I feel.
A lot of people hear it said, to whom much is given, much is required. I like the way that's transliterated into the Message version, where Luke says the same thing, but he says great gifts mean great responsibility. Greater gifts, greater responsibility. So I've just that's one that verse is one that's always stuck with me. Because like you said, we have these gifts. If you've got this gift, why aren't you using it? Or, be willing to take risk. Who was it that said that you miss 100% of the shots you don't take? Is that Michael Jordan?
Is that Michael Jordan? I think it, which is
Michael Jordan
very
or Wayne
true.
Gretzky?
I mean, you don't make any of those.
But one of those two said that, and that's another quote that's always stuck with me. Man, wrapping up with you, a couple things I want to ask you real quick. If you could leave a father with something, a nugget of knowledge to help them with being a dad, what would you tell them?
Oh man, that's heavy. Love your wife. Love your children. Like, therefore, you're not gonna get it all right, and you're gonna screw up, and you're sometimes you're gonna lose your temper. It's okay. It's normal. It, it happens. If anybody says it doesn't happen, they're lying to your face. They gotta be like that. That cannot be true. I know everybody paints this picture of how family is supposed to be and how it's supposed to feel,
Yeah.
but like we're all living in these houses. It's not always easy, um, but it is always good if you look at the big picture of it all. That's what I try to do. Again, some days are better than others, but especially as someone, when I first started out as a father, I was, my son's mom, she split with me while she was pregnant, and made it very difficult for me early on to have any connection with my son whatsoever. I had to fight, in court and through legal battles, and build my own reputation so that I would be even given a fair shake, a fair shot in the eyes of the law. Like, why should we let this guy, this baby daddy out here? What's he doing that he deserves this? Which no one should need to deserve it. Like, if you're your child's parent, why should you not be given equal and fair share? I think things are better now, but at the time I didn't feel like that was how it was. So I was working and scratching and clawing. And so I think for me, I don't always appreciate as much as I should, but I feel like maybe I appreciate my kids and my wife a little more than the average bear, because man, like when somebody tries to keep it from you and tries to take it
Yeah.
from you and tries to limit it and control it so that you can't do it the way that you want to do it, and you want to, there is no worse feeling in the entire world than that. Like that was the lowest period of my entire life, was that. And so, now I just try to, now I'm gone a lot on my own. I don't get to see my kids I like, but I know when I do, it's on my terms, and I love my kids. I try to set a good example and just do right by them. And so I'd say, as a father, I think it is your responsibility to set a good example, and to do that. You may not get everything right, but if you do more good than you do bad, and you really keep in mind what your responsibility is in terms of the impression you need to make and the example that you got to set, I think most of the time you're going to wind up okay.
I'm going to ask you a similar question to the guy who's who's a husband who you know who may have kids, may not have kids. What do you say to the husband?
Try to be there for your wife. Try to be understanding. It's not always easy. You've got two different personalities, yours and hers, and Lord knows my wife and I have really different certain things we both enjoy, but the way she deals with issues and the way I deal with them are not the same. And it took us a really long time, I think, to kind of understand and respect each other's approach to things. But I think you just got to keep up, to use a baseball analogy. I know, Elliot, you're not a big baseball guy, but
That's fine.
every day is another at bat. You get another
That's right.
chance every day. And sometimes you strike out, sometimes you hit a home run. And you just got to keep getting up, keep getting in the batter's box, and don't give up, don't quit. Just because you have a bad day doesn't mean you need to phone it in. Just keep it going. And again, like, try to do as much as you can. Keep her in mind, and do what you can when you can, because that's I think that's the key to it. That's the key, I think, to what success I've had. You'd have to ask her, I suppose. She'd have a better insight on that side of it. But we're still in it, and we still love each other. We still enjoy each other's company, and I think that.
Last question. To the young man or older guy who's finally who's chasing his dream. What would you say is a key to success?
Keep working. Work harder than everybody. Outwork everyone. I know that's common and people say that all the time, but like you can tell those that
Christian
do
Cage.
and those that don't. I mean, but like I think the people that really do make it, they did out.
Yeah.
You work with independent wrestling. Everybody wants the top spot, but who's doing top spot stuff? Who's
Correct.
doing that? I mean, and this is not to using wrestling term to put myself over, but it's hard to be an announcer in wrestling. It is remarkably. It's harder to be an announcer than it is to be a wrestler. And the reason I say that is not because of the skill level. It certainly doesn't beat your body up as much. So that there's that. But when you go to any wrestling show, how many guys do you book for a PCW show? How many guys are on that roster on that card?
20, 25, probably.
How many announcers you got? Yeah. So, and how many, you're in South Carolina.
Yep.
How many announcers, how many good announcers do you know in North, South, and Georgia? North and South Carolina and Georgia. How many good announcers are out there?
There's handful. I'd say
Handful?
5
4 or
that
5, maybe
that
6.
I know of. Yeah.
Yeah. And they do, and how many promotions are there? And they're probably working all of them, right? Like it's the same 4, 5, 6, guys, gals that are doing it. What makes you special? What makes it hard? Like, that was reality where I walked in. I mean, I've literally only been at this 5 years, and I've made tremendous strides, in that 5 years, much more than a lot of people have. And I don't think it's just my talent or anything like that. It's I work 150 to 200 shows a year, every year for years now. And that's sacrificing time with my wife and sacrificing time with my children and pulling time away from my job. I'm making a go of this for an action. And I believe that is where I'm going to. In fact, I don't just believe it. That will happen for me. I'm going to make that happen. But it's because of this attitude. It's because of this kind of approach. So for someone that is chasing a dream, like if you want to get after it, you got to get after it.
Mm.
Or MMA fights the same for people that want a certain job. What are you doing? Are your actions in alignment with your desire? You can't lie about that. You say they are, you could lie, you could tell people, but in your heart if you are or you're not. And to me, you've been. And if you do that, I do be successful. But if you are only dipping a toe in the water, but you can talk a big game on social media, people will. If you want to about it, then be about it. And that's really all that you.
It's good. Well, man, I appreciate you hanging out tonight. I know you said
Dude, this was
you had about
cool.
you said you had about an hour. And before we wrap it up, I want to leave you with some things real quick. One, as a father, and I think talking to you, I think you agree. Never be afraid to apologize to your kids. That's something that I didn't hear growing up. That's something I've learned with my own children. And you can apply the same thing to being a husband. Never be afraid to apologize to your wife either. Also, another thing that I kind of thought of while we were talking was well, I guess I didn't think of it. I had it, but it left me. Oh, that's it. As a man, if you're struggling, it's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to stay that way. That's something that's always stuck with me. Whether it's in your relationship with your wife, with your kids, hey, it's okay to struggle. Man, get through the struggle, and your kids and your wife kids and wives need us more than we realize. And
100%. And not enough people are talking about that. This was for as fathers and husbands go. That's just not a group that gets the kind of acknowledgement in that respect that I feel like they should, because we do need.
Yep. And the last thing I would say is, as a man, surround yourself with other like-minded men that's going to build you up, raise you up, and that whenever you're dragging the ground, they're lifting you up and helping carry you the way. It's time that we get back to that brotherhood approach. I feel like in society, to where we're brothers, not only, just being there for each other, but hey, we help each other walk through our marriages and our fatherhood together. So, man, before I let you go, this podcast is brought to you by Day Soul Coffee Lab out of Birmingham, Alabama. Guys, I don't know if y'all know this, but I consider myself a coffee connoisseur. I absolutely love coffee, and I found what I believe to be the absolute best coffee out there. With Day Soul Coffee Lab, you can get coffee that's always super smooth and fresh roasted. So head over to the website at www.daysoulcoffeelab.co. Use promo code LOWDOWN and get 10% off your order. They even have a subscription option where they'll deliver coffee directly to you every month. So if you're like me and you forget, just do an auto renewal. They'll send it directly to you. Because, guys, if you're going to drink coffee, you might as well make it great coffee. Well, guys,
I was in Birmingham, Alabama this weekend. You should have told me about this coffee then, man. I'm running on fumes out there some nights. I gotta get me some good stuff to keep this party going.
Well, next time you head out to Helena or Birmingham, I think they're in downtown Helena now, which isn't far from Birmingham. Go by Day Soul. Tell Bert Elliot sent you. He'll hook you up.
I'll do that next time.
There you go. Guys, it has been a fun one tonight. As always, we appreciate you tuning in. If you wasn't able to catch the live stream, be sure to catch it on your favorite podcast player, which you're probably already doing already. My name is Elliot. Hanging out with me tonight is the Young Professor, Chief Potassium Enthusiast, Matt Graifer. Matt, we appreciate you, man. Have a great weekend. Guys, you can follow him all over social media and everything. Matt, throw your plugs out there, brother.
Everything is at Young Professor G. Elliot, I can't thank you enough, brother. As I like to say at the close of my shows, class dismissed, everybody. Thank you.
Guys, we appreciate you tuning in. This has been the Lowdown Popcast. And as always, let's keep it popping.